right, hello and welcome F1 race fans. Fabregas 115 here. We are bringing to you Elite Aspect F1 25 round 3 here at the Suzuka circuit in Japan. We see a little bit of the track there. And this is what the turns are called, so I'll refer to them as the S's and Degners, Dunlop, of course, 130R and Spoon of 13 and 14. And as right now, we are just waiting for everybody to load in. It looks like everybody is going soon. So as soon as we get going, because it's straight to the race, 100%, no assists around this 5.8 kilometer, 3.6 mile circuit. So 53 laps we're going to be doing today. No idea what the weather's going to hold. We did have qualifying yesterday. So if we look at the qualifying results, and we'll run down all this again as the formation lap comes into play. And those are the fastest times, but it was a weird qualifying session. Because this will be the starting grid, maybe changing a little bit around. But it was a weird qualifying session. It was raining, and it seemed like it was drying. So the intermediates and the softs were doing similar times, and it was drying through Q2 as well. So a lot of drivers had faster times in Q2 than the best times in Q3. Because when we got into Q3, it felt like the soft tires ran really, really well at the beginning, but weren't improving. And the intermediates were almost just as good. So it was a really weird qualifying session that we had yesterday. And we'll go and look at the driver standings as we head into round 3 race here. Last week we had a sprint session in China, so Edvin Naslin won both of those, so is now on 33 points behind Will Alberto, who unfortunately is not with us today. So we can see that gap definitely close. Edvin Naslin's not in today either, so chance for Joe Animator and Marcos Olmedo to close that gap to the top 2. Harrison Holmes as well, Legion in as well, Young Lights, Ghost, Florisan, all those guys are in the race today. As it is the V-Carbs ahead at the moment, but if you check out the starting grids, we've got 2 Ferraris in the top 5, and I believe the V-Carb is down to 7th starting today. So no rain, it does look like on the calendar here. As we are loading in, everybody's putting on their setups and choosing their strategies as we get ready for Elite Aspect F1 25. Just started the game a month or 2 ago, so everybody's new to this game. Not that they're new drivers, but this game is somewhat new, 2 months, maybe 2.5, 3 months. No assists, so everybody had to learn the tracks with no racing line, no ABS, no traction control. As all the drivers are loading their setups, hopefully, remember to load your setups and trying to get their strategy straight. So I'm thinking of 2-stop medium hards and then maybe mediums or medium hards. Because when I was looking at tire deg through the free practice sessions that we were doing earlier, it did look pretty high, especially the front left that was wearing the most. As you can definitely see how that happens around Japan here. As all the players are getting set and situated. And looks like here is the start of the formation lap. As we can go ahead and get a rundown of the tires. Lots of medium runners, a couple hard runners out there, and then a few softs as well. So that'll be interesting to watch. As it is Harrison Holmes leading us away. If we check out the starting grid again, is it the same? Yes, Harrison Holmes, Seth, Young Lights up to 3rd, Animator in 4th. We've got Ghost on row 3, side by side Florisan in 6th. AZR Bovril and Marcos Olmedo will be 7th and 8th. Marcos Olmedo looking to improve because without his teammate rival, Legion and the Aston Martin qualified yesterday, I believe, in either the Haas or the Ferrari. Is up in the 9th. Johnny Carr now in 10th. MTU in the McLaren 11th, we've got the two Williams, X-Joe, and Frozen on row 6. Row 7 with Poison Harbor, the other Alpine, and then the other V-Carb, well, Hugo Rodriguez in 15th. And 16th, 17th, I-Links with the Red Bull and Dodoligo in the McLaren, so they did not qualify yesterday. So they will be starting at the back of the grid. But Harrison Holmes with a fabulous time in qualifying yesterday. Again, a weird session, how it played out, as they are making their way through the spoon curves now. Firing up these tires. And take a look again. Top 6 starting on mediums, Bover on the soft. 2 more mediums, then a soft, a hard, then a soft, medium, a hard, medium, a soft, a soft. The guys at the back may be thinking about setting up here. And the camera, the game will tell us alternate strategies as far as tires are concerned. I thought the mediums were the way to go. Watch out for the 2 Ferraris on the left side of your screen. We've got a Sauber pinched, we've got an Alpine pinched by the 2 Saubers as they're moving over to cut off anything off the left side of your screen. As we've got the McLaren driver of Dodoligo pulling to the back of the grid here, as we are about to begin Elite Aspect F125 Round 3, the Japan Grand Prix. Again, no assist, 100% race, 53 laps, 5.8 kilometers, 3.6 miles around this track. It looks like the Ferrari of Seth got away pretty well. Nope, I believe the Sauber was able to handle that. The Ferrari down on the inside of Young Lights into turns 1 and 2, unable to capitalize. No, now has the inside line. Alpine has the inside line going into the S's. Line astern, a lot of them side by side in the back row. The McLaren looks like one of the Red Bulls has ghosted, it does look like. That had to be I-Links, maybe it was Johnny. As leaders all away, Joe Animator did get by Young Lights there, dropped down to 4th now. Marcos Olmedo in 5th, Bover up to 6th with Florissant now 7th. Ghost drop back to 8th. Legion up to 9th, getting past X-Joe. Very, very tight there. Wide goes X-Joe. Going to lose another 2 places there as other drivers going wide in the background as you see them coming through the final Degna. First look into the hairpin here on lap 1 of Elite Aspect F125 for the Japanese Grand Prix. Round 3. Marcos Olmedo in the V-Carb already up to 5th. Young Lights lost out, is now off the podium steps with the 2 Ferraris of Animator and Seth Martin pulling in those, with Harrison leading the bunch away after a fantastic qualifying session, was able to get away very, very easily. We see MTU and the McLaren dropping back as they're making their way through the spoon curves for the first fast lap of the race. Frozen down to 16th as I-Links and Dodoligo look like they are side by side coming down this straight into 130R. Bovero and Marcos Olmedo were also battling there into the final chicane. A little bit of a cut corner there in the Alpi of the V-Carb of Hugo Rodriguez. Now on the back of Poison Harbor. I-Link's in there too. Are they going to go 3 wide into turn 1? The Alpine is forced wide. And we do have a Sector 3 caution. I believe that was MTU in the McLaren. I'm assuming this is called a full course caution. Cars removed. I don't see a VSC sign up. I also don't see a safety car sign up. Oh, there's VSC flashing. So it is a virtual safety car. We're back to green racing. Alrighty, let's go again. Harrison now 3 seconds away from Seth. Very, very interesting there. Legion all over the back of Ghost. Into the hairpin, takes the inside line. Oh, and takes out his teammate in the process. Legion, not very nice there, as Florissant brings it around and gets back on track. That's going to be a penalty for causing probably 2 collisions there from Legion. Ghost still stayed in front as he's right behind going into Spoon now. Able to take the inside line. Side by side they come. Out of the Spoon turns. Florissant lost out big time after that. Inside of 130R. Makes the pass done up to 7th. Marcos Tomato up to 5th. DRS train in front with the 2 Ferraris and the Alpine of Young Lights. Very, very close to the back of that Alpine now. Through the S's, top 6 gap is a little bit grown. As Ghost is fighting back with Legion. Hugo Rodriguez and Link's Piece are still fighting. Florissant knocked all the way back to 12th by his teammate, spinning him through the hairpin. Marcos Olmedo is looking quick. Had a good start up to 5th. Oh, it is going to make the late move into the hairpin to get around Young Lights there. And Young Lights fight back. Dodaligo dropping in the background in that McLaren as well. But something happened in Sector 2 there. Going into the hairpin, it looks like. Harrison Holmes far and away in the Kick Sauber. Must have read that virtual safety car perfectly. There's no DRS down this straight. Florissant back up to 11th. See if he can charge back through the field. Very unfortunate with his teammate there. X-Show, who we know has pace, unfortunate in qualifying, wasn't further up the grid. On those soft compound tires, is able to get up to 12. Not sure, as Young Lights and Bovril are battling. Bovril barely gets by in that Haas going into turn 1. With the DRS on the soft compound tires, is making those work. And has moved up a few places in the first 4 laps of this Grand Prix here for Elite Aspect F125. Round 3 here at Japan. As it is Lynx on those soft compound tires. Johnny Carr and Poison Harbor has spun off. That's allowed everybody to go by. And now we'll pull up the back of the grid after MTU DUCZ's retirement early on that caused the VSC. Looks like everybody's settling into a rhythm. Line of stern, pretty much. Lots of close battles that we need to keep an eye on. V Carver Marcus Olmedo is the closest battle on Joe Animator. 2 championship rivals and champion rival team cars. Definitely keep an eye on this battle. No DRS going into 130R, as there is for no one. If they wanted to take the iconic 130R out, extend the straight a little bit, and have a heavier braking zone, they can maybe put a DRS zone there, and it might actually improve the racing here. But he is going to have DRS, so does Joe Animator in front. Straight line speed a little bit better. You see Joe Animator defending the inside. Well defended there. A little bit of the curb on the exit. Did not allow Bover to capitalize as they make their way through the S's, change of direction, left to right, left to right. Back to the left as they make their way up the hill through Dunlop. As Harrison Holmes is pulling away in that Kick Sauber in first place. We'll give him some track screen time here in just a little bit. But we don't want to take away from this battle that we're seeing with Marcos Olmedo. A little further back, Florissant and I-Link's piece. Florissant trying to get back in the points after that tussle on lap 2 or 3 with his teammate on lap 3, maybe it was lap 4, with his teammate Legion, who is up to 7th. As Florissant does get by. Didn't see that happening into the hairpin, has the outside line. Able to make that stick on Lynx, even though Florissant is on the medium tires. So how fast do those hard tires really fall out? I mean, how fast do those soft tires really fall off? This is Marcos Olmedo into 130R. Looks like he lost a little bit there as Bovril behind him is catching. Young Light still within that 1 second, just fell out of that. I-Link still fighting back against the Aston Martin of Florissant here. Harrison Holmes well and away, still setting fastest lap after fastest lap. Into turn 1 again. Marcos Olmedo still battling with these 2 Ferraris. Over right behind him. Young Lights has dropped back a little bit. He's almost on a race of his own. We'll see how Legion, that 2.5 second gap, see if that starts closing in a couple laps. Ghost as well. Good pace. Those mediums are probably coming in their own. The soft compound runners are probably going to start suffering here shortly. As iLinks is dropping off. Again, I think those soft compounds are good for maybe 5 or 6 laps. You may be able to stretch them to 8 or 9. But in the end, I don't think they're going to be a good longevity tire. Joe Animator staying in the gearbox of his teammate. We haven't seen these two try to battle at all. Seem to be working together with a little bit of DRS and slipstream, but are you losing time in the turns as two drivers behind him, less than half a second? So it's pretty much 2 through 4, 5 here is what we're going to keep an eye on for a little bit. Through the triangle chicane. On the final turn, DRS trained. Not sure if anyone can take advantage into turn 1. Very, very difficult to overtake it. And side by side they go out of turn 2. Animator able to hold on. Defending that inside line into turn 1 seems to be working. Maybe didn't get a greater exit, as the apex of the turn had to change, but Marcos Almeida unable to pull something off in turn 2. All these drivers on the medium tires. Young Lights in 6, not too far back, and that gap looks like it's closed up a bit too. Legion dropping back off of Young Lights, maybe made a mistake because Ghost has moved up. Florissant got past Hugo Rodriguez there. Did Rodriguez make a mistake? Because that was quick. As Ghost is now all over the back of Legion. I wonder if Legion made a mistake because he's dropped almost a full second off of Young Lights in the last lap or so. We'll have to check that gap to Ghost and Florissant, as we may see the two Aston Martins coming together again. Into the final chicane. Keeping an eye up front as well. Is that gap closing too much? I don't think so, but with the DRS, Ghost able to get down to the inside of Legion to overtake to 7th place out of turn 2. Able to make it stick. As we'll move back up to the leaders here. The fight for the final podium position between Martin Animator, Marcos Almeida, and AZR Bovril in the Haas. Young Lights still a little bit further back, 2 seconds. Florissant 2 seconds behind his teammate Legion now. So we'll see if that gap starts to close as well. Eight laps done of the 53 laps for Japan here for Elite Aspect F125. Just beginning the season, round 3 here at the Suzuka circuit in Japan. As they've settled into a rhythm, 8 laps, mostly medium runners. Interesting line there from Animator. I'm not sure if something happened, but Marcos Almeida in the V car be able to capitalize. Legion has closed his gap to now 0.3 seconds back to Ghost. So maybe had a mistake, as it is Marcos Almeida pulling out of the slipstream. It is Legion making his way by Ghost again. Extra over iLink's piece, links into the pits. Okay. On those soft tires, did 9 laps. Legion able to overtake Ghost as they're battling back and forth. Florissant still that 2 second gap, so we'll see if that starts to close. It's Harrison Holmes, 10 seconds out in front. Marcus Olmedo very, very close here. Really putting the pressure on Animator. But at the same time, Animator's defending. He's able to stay within right at half a second of his teammate in front. Pulls out of the slipstream, not going to happen. It's either going to be a late braking move into the chicane, or you're just going to get a better exit out of the chicane and be able to make that DRS finally work into turn one. As overtaking around here is difficult, and with your guy you're trying to overtake with DRS in front of you, it's going to make it even more difficult. Might have been wise for Marcus Olmedo to stay in the slipstream with a Ferrari ahead, but had his wheels in front there, exiting turn two, unable to capitalize. A little bit of rubbing, nothing wrong with that. Was Bobro able to get close? Marcus Olmedo is going to have to close up a little bit more, as these VR Seth Martin did pull away a couple tenths here, in it, there, and here. As Florissant has closed the gap to half a second on Ghost now. Ghost staying within that 1 second of Legion. And then Young Lights and Legion far off, about 3 seconds from each other. So a little bit of a gap there. As the drivers behind 10th through 16th are all very spread out. We have seen a couple pit stops, but nothing from the front of the pack. So they're all running mediums, and I expect them to go 18 laps. How did EVR Seth lose out there? Gets back by. Marcus Olmedo is going to take the slipstream into 130R side by side. Great racing from everyone. Look how close they are through the final chicane and the final turn. Onto the main straight. DRS going to be open. Back and forth. A little bit of wheel rubbing there as you see the overspeed. Animator past Seth. Olmedo's past Animator, and as Marcus Olmedo moves up to second in the V-Carb, Animator past his teammate Seth. Ghost and Legion were battling again. That DRS into turn one, working out for them. Fantastic battling for the podium positions here, as it is now V-Carb Ferrari Haas, where it was Ferrari V-Carb Haas. Those were unable to capitalize. As we see Legion and Florissant together again. We did see Legion do that very ambitious move into the hairpin where we just came out of. And got the move done on the guy in front, and it looked good until he did tap the back of Florissant, which did spin him around. And we'll take a look at that. That incident has been noted between the two Aston Martin teammates. As we make our way up through the straight into 130R, the back straight. Oh, so close there, all of them. Almost thought about going side by side into the chicane. 3 wide would have been outrageous. As Olmedo is not going to have DRS, but Animator is. Has got to the inside line. Seth Martin again going to take the run down to turn one. Marcus Olmedo able to keep the inside line, has now split the Ferraris. Florissant getting by Legion into the S's. So no trouble with those two there. As we make our way back up to the podium spots. While that battle is going on, let's go ahead and check out Harrison Holmes, who has lapped somebody, it looks like. And Williams up frozen behind. And is almost 14 seconds up the road from the rest of the drivers that have been battling for those final podium slots. So we'll definitely 12 laps out of 53 here in Japan for Elite Aspect F125, round 3 at the Suzuka circuit. Japanese Grand Prix, 100% race, no assists. As our leader Harrison Holmes. But we need to look back at the action happening on track. But we don't want to forget our leader is the leader for a reason. A little bit of wheel banging there as they come into the chicane. Marcos Almeida able to cut the corner there, is going to take a penalty for that, but might have been forced off. Into the grass a little bit. That's going to bring Animator up to second. Bovrill's going to take over third now. It is going to be Bovril and Seth into the braking zone. Very tight racing between the drivers. They're coming up on the Williams, or Dodaligo just came out of the pits. That'll be blue flags. As Marcos Almeida lost out the most there, Bovril able to move up one spot. Marcos Almeida all the way behind him, trying to get a great exit. A little bit of a tap there. Not sure if Poison Harbor is having a little bit of an issue up the road. As it's now Ferrari, Haas, V-Carb. As Bovril and Almeida get a little tangled there. Almeida's going to have to let Bovril have the position, as it might have been optimistic, but Bovril on the soft compound tires, those have got to be falling off quickly. And the two Ferraris of Joe Animator and Seth Martin have got to be loving this. If Bovril can hold Marcos Almeida back for just a little bit, a few tenths here and there, maybe a second, as those soft tires have got to be losing it. He'll be the first of the front runners to come into the pits, and I'm surprised he hasn't already. Because the two Ferraris are probably happy to hold up shop. Marcos Almeida wants to get around the Haas now. Has the DRS, has the speed, has the tires. Probably had the traction coming out of the final turn. Able to get past into turn 1 and 2 with the DRS. So no issues there. I think if Bovril starts dropping back and is burning those tires, he's going to have to think about pitting in the next lap or so. Forsyth up high Ghost, now up into 7th. We've got Legion in 9th, very, very close to the back of Ghost in 8th. The two Red Bulls of Johnny Carr and iLink's Peace are very close as well. Like Johnny Carr, I was having some issues in qualifying yesterday with his internet jumping out in and out as well. Legion very, very close into the hairpin. We've got a caution in sector 2. I believe that's the McLaren behind of Dodaligo. Seventh, 8th, and 9th is that Aston Martin Sauber sandwich. Give props to the Kick Sauber in front after lap 15, coming across the line. Nick still has fastest lap of the race and has led this race from the get-go, from the beginning. 17, almost 18 seconds now out front. Absolutely dominating the race today is Harrison Holmes. But the drivers behind, that is a very close battle for these podium positions. And we cannot take our eyes off of that. We do see Legion getting very, very close to Ghost. Will he make that move into turn 1? It doesn't look like it. So we'll have to keep an eye on that delta as well between those. Johnny Carr in 13th has left the session. I'm sure that's internet, so hopefully he can get back in maybe. He's had decent pace. As feared, AZR Bovril has dropped back with those soft tires probably just losing purchase all over the place. You've got to be screaming at the 60% mark at least. Second, third, and fourth. Ferrari V-Carb, Animator Seth Martin, and Marcos Almeida making their way up the back straight into 130R. Finishing up the middle sector, of lap 16 here at the Japanese Grand Prix for Elite Aspect F1 Round 3. These three drivers have been battling since the off, right at the beginning. Legion very, very close to Ghost as well. We'll see how that plays in. Again, Olmedo's going to take advantage. Seth passed his teammate. Olmedo has the inside line. That's going to force Seth Martin wide a little bit. Animator's going to lose out with no DRS. So now it's V-Carb overtaking 2, Martin overtaking 1, and Joe Animator lost out. Is now down to 4th. I expect to see this transition happening multiple times throughout this race, as it's going to be the pit stops that make a difference. Bovrill's still out there on the soft compound tires, really falling back. Has brought Young Lights extra into the pits. That brings iLinks up to 11. Young Lights is now less than a second behind Bobro. Bobro is losing time out there on those softs, and I'm wondering why he has not stopped the pit yet. As the Ferraris have dropped back a little bit from Marcos Olmedo, everybody's got to start thinking about getting in a pit. 20 laps for the mediums is about there. As we come through the triangle final chicane here, through the final turn, last corner. Both Ferraris will get the DRS. Bovril is into the pits. Be interesting to see what he comes out on. Seth not close enough to get buy-in down into turn 1. But if we can keep that gap, less than right at 3 or 4 tenths, should be all right. Legion closing in on Ghost, so these drivers have backed off and gotten closer to each other, backed off and gotten closer to each other. That gap of Florissant to Young Lights has been closing as well. Young Lights looking in the mirrors, as it's 1 through 9, 16 lap old mediums. Bover on those soft is going to come out on. We'll find out in just a minute. Johnny Carr, 15 lap olds, has left the race. Poison Harbor, 10 lap old hard, so got out early. As Florissant is less than a second now behind Young Lights for that 5th and last double-digit point paying position. Legion on to Ghost as well. That gap is right at 1 second. Harrison Holmes, 20 seconds up the road. Will we see anything happening now? Is it just trying to preserve these tires for as long as possible? Florissant comes into the pits off the mediums. Put on a set of hards. Ghost into the pits as well. Florissant out. Overall comes out ahead on a second set of softs. Very, very interesting. As Seth Martin has dropped out of DRS, or is now back in it. So keep an eye on that gap. If that gets more than a second, Animator and Seth will have to work together. I'm surprised we haven't seen one of them into the pit yet to try and undercut. How fast will that gap from Bovril to Hugo Rodriguez? How fast will that close? Drivers have to think about pitting, especially the Ferraris. Neither one does as of yet. So are these guys stretching this to a one-stop? Harrison Holmes coming through Dunlop now on lap 19 of 53. Wait, Legion and Young Lights. Nope, Young Lights into the pits. Okay. Just want to give some credit to our race leader. Harrison Holmes making his way into the hairpin. 20 seconds out front. Overall set the fastest lap of rapes on the softs. Where's Young Lights and Florissant going to come out together? Oh, this could be a battle. Florissant gets by. The undercut works for Florissant and Young Lights. That should put Florissant net 5th. We're now net 6 behind Bovril. Ghost has pit also. And is on softs. So all those drivers 7 through 10 have pit for softs, hards, hards, softs. That'll be interesting to watch as it progresses. Seth getting by into 130R, splitting the Ferraris now with a V-carb in between them. So better exit out of the second spoon. And it will be the Ferrari of Seth Martin coming into the pits. Marcos Olmedo follows. That leaves Animator out there now on his own. Still should have gotten DRS maybe. He's going to have to push to not get undercut. As Legion up to 3rd now. Still pushing long on those medium tires. As everybody's moving around due to the pit stops. As Ghost, Young Lights, and Florissant all battling here. Ghost on the soft compound tires is going to have an advantage over the next couple laps. Seth in front of Marcos Olmedo after pit exit. Bovril has overtaken both of them going on to the soft compound tires. Ghost and Florissant. Young Lights trying to stay with them at the moment. Wide. So those hard tires have not fired up. Ghost is softs. We'll see how Florissant's hards fire up. It was Marcos Olmedo went to the hards. Seth went to the softs. Bobro's on softs. Legion on his old mediums. Will Animator come into the pits now? Harrison almost has a free stop ahead of him. Animator staying out there for another lap. As we have the second McLaren retirement of the day for Dodoligo. Both of them were reserves, I believe. As it is a battle between Ghost and Florissant that looks the most animated at the moment. I think there was a tangle at the final chicane. Hugo, Lynx, X-Joe all involved. X-Joe losing out, drops back to 12th. I thought Dodoligo retired from the session. The car came out of the pits and is now gone, so that's okay. But it did leave us Sector 1 yellow flag there for just a moment. Lap 22 of 53 here for Elite Aspect F125. Around the Suzuka circuit in Japan. 5.8 kilometers, 3.6 miles. About a minute 30 for a lap around here. On, you know, regular tires, regular fuel. As it is Ghost closest to Florissant on the soft compound tires. One on hards, one on softs. We'll see if Florissant can make Ghost can make that work. Bovril was trying that as well. Seth has closed that gap to Bovril very, very quickly as well. Both on soft tires. Bovril's are going to be a little bit older. such the overspeed with that DRS heading down into turn one. You can depend down on the inside. But Seth is going to move there, as Ghost the same thing on Florissant with the DRS on the soft compound tires. Better traction out of the final, and then able to make a run, as it looks like Florissant might be coming back. But I think the traction of those soft compound tires through these S's is definitely still favoring Ghost at the moment. Animator yet to pit. So has Legion. So Seth Martin did get by Bovro, who was on that alternate strategy, started on softs, took them a long ways, put on another set of softs, but Seth also put on a set of softs. As Florissant and Ghost will continue to battle. We'll check on the gaps between the rest of the drivers, but Bovro, Seth, Florissant, Ghost are the two battles going on right now. Bovro has dropped out of 1 second. Back into it. Trying to use that 1 second slipstream ahead in a 130R. Get the braking right into the final chicane. Can close that gap up. But really, you need to be less than half a second to make the DRS work here. There's a 130.5. Soft compound tires for Seth has set the fastest lap of the race. Florissant, I think, a little bit too far back to make a go at Ghost in the second kick Sauber at the moment. Legion and Animator still out there. 23 and Harrison. None have pit yet. Harrison will have a free pit stop pretty much whenever he wants it. But Animator and Legion have not pit yet. So that's Seth pretty much provisional 2, Bovro provisional 3 at the moment. But plenty of time left in this race. Plenty to go, 30 laps left. As we're watching that gap reduce between number 8 and number 7, Florissant and Ghost. But we're going to have to check out the Ferrari of Seth. As Legion has not pit yet. Very old medium compound tires. Probably pulling the pits now. Stays out. Really pushing hard for a one stop. We should see the DRS overspeed and Seth be able to get by. Again, Legion on a different strategy. Has not pit yet. So fresh soft rubber for Seth has brought the Ferraris 2 and 3 again. It'll be interesting to see if Bovro and Marcos Olmedo can split that gap to Joe Animator when he finally does pit. As Harrison Holmes still leads this race into Sauber. 25 seconds up. I guess just using these medium tires as far as they'll go, put on a set of hards and take the one-stop strategy. Oh, it looks like Extros in the Williams is retired in the pits, as it is now Bovro's turn on those soft compound tires to make a run on Legion. I would think Legion does need to pit, or will be susceptible to Young Lights, Hugo, Rodriguez as well behind. Inside line to 130R. Gonna have the outside line going into the chicane, so that will turn into an inside line. Gonna leave room, but on those soft compound tires, no issue there. Harrison comes out of the pits, and Animator has overtaken him for the lead of the race. Bovro did get by Legion. Legion's not going to have enough purchase to fight back coming out of the final turn with those old medium tires. On the hards, Florissant, closing the gap, closing, but not going to be enough. As Animator on a non-pit 25 lap old mediums is the new leader of the race, but Harrison on the hard compounds is probably fresh rubber. It is going to make that gap close really quickly. But Seth is going to do everything. I mean, Joe Animator is going to do everything he can to keep him behind so that his teammate Seth can try to close that gap in front. Legion's tires have got to be screaming. Please get them off. Animators as well. As it may take an extra lap here for Harrison's hard to actually come into their own. Into the pits comes Animator, but Harrison will get the DRS. And it's a lapped car in front, so no big deal there. Into the chicane, Thorson and Ghost. Where do they come out compared to Animator? Bobril gets past Animator. Marcos Almeida gets past Animator. Florison and Ghost both get past Animator, and Florison gets past Ghost down into turn 1. And Marcos Almeida is right in front. Has not been able to really put good times in. On those soft compounds, though, how fast do they wear out? Animator probably went a little too far and has dropped down to 7. As everybody has pit at least once now. Possible one-stop strategies have opened up halfway through. With the hard tires, we know Seth, Bovril, and Ghost will probably pit again. Florison on the oldest hard compound tires. Can he make them go another 25 laps? That'll be interesting to see. We thought the 2-stop was prevalent, but Animator can probably do a 1-stop. Harrison might be able to do a 1-stop. Marcos Almeida may get a 1-stop in here. Legion might be able to work a 1-stop strategy out of this session. As Harrison on the hard compound tires is now setting fastest laps, where Bovril and Seth Martin were just setting them on softs. So trying to close that up. Harrison was 25 seconds up the road on second place once we looked at Joe Animator after the first round of pit stops. Seth has closed that gap to 10 seconds now, so race on. Florison and Marcos Almeida within 1 second, as Florison has gotten out of the Ghost's shadow, is able to take 5th spot. And see if he can stay at least 1 second ahead of Ghost and close that gap to Marcos Almeida, as Animator will be another interesting one to watch. I don't know how Frozen is still here. Exco is the one that left. Frozen and the other Williams. Animator will be the one to watch on the hard compound tires. Ghost on the softs. How far do they fall away? And how fast can Animator close this gap with the fresh hard compound rubber? And then how long will it take for them to start closing the gap back to Bovril and Seth Martin in second and third as those soft tires start to fall away? Alrighty, so closest battle is Marcos Florissant. Ghost falling on back, so those soft tires must be coming a little unstuck. Florissant keeping right around that 1 second. Is Animator closing that gap now 2 seconds to Ghost? Some of these drivers are on two-stop strategies and pushing hard on softs, while others are on one-stop strategies with hards and trying to make them last many laps. As Florissant and the Aston Martin, TRT Marcos Olmedo in the V car is the closest battle within 1 second that we're watching on screen unfold, both on the hard compound tires. Seth not able to make that gap. It was 10 seconds, now 14 seconds to Harrison as the leader in front. Florissant's going to have DRS. Is he going to be able to make a move? Olmedo defending to the inside, but too much. Doesn't have his tire in there to be able to defend for turn one. So Florissant up to 4th now. But I believe his tires might be a little older than Marcos Olmedo's. So we'll see how that falls over the next 20 laps. Will Florissant pit again? But Marcos Olmedo is not going anywhere. So that gap is remaining half a second. We'll swap back to Animator and Ghost as that gap is now dropped below 1 second as well. So the soft stint, second stint here for Ghost may not have worked out as well, as he is dropping back to fresher, harder compound rubber behind. In the slipstream. Not going to be able to make that happen. Check back on Animator and Ghost here in a second, as we want to watch the V car with DRS. Looks like a good opportunity to come back. Down the inside into turn one. Florissant not going to be able to battle with a tire in there. Animator's going past Ghost very rapidly into turn one as well. So turn one seems to be the place to make the overtakes. And we'll see how Ghost and Florissant can hang on, as these may be back and forth fights. I think Ghost will fall off a little bit because of the tire compounds. Bovero and Martin are in their own battle on the softs two-stop strategy. And they'll be able to probably put on a set of mediums, as Hugo got past Legion there. Not sure if there was contact, because that gap changed very quickly. Both on hard compound tires as well. Florissant staying within 1 second. That 2.5 second gap from Bovero to Seth is pretty much remaining the same. As Florissant very tight on the back of Marcos Olmedo coming out of the final turn. May see another move down into turn one. Marcus defends the inside line, but once you pass clear the pit exit, with the DRS, you're just so much faster. Well, we might see these drivers just trade 4th and 5th back and forth, lap after lap. That still is the closest gap. Florissant is catching, they're both catching Bovero, as a matter of fact, on those soft compound tires. So Bovero's going to have to pit soon if he's losing time to the drivers behind on a one-stop strategy. And I have to go for mediums and try to make up the difference. 20 lap, because he did softs and softs, I think. Seth Martin started on mediums and then went to softs. Bovero took that first set of softs a really long way. Bovero's going to have to pit, or he is at risk of really losing out. But I think with half the fuel, half the race, more than half the race gone, set of the mediums to the end, no issue, especially if he was able to take those first set of softs 15 to 16 laps with full fuel. And we'll see if Marcos Olmedo can make this pass again. Florissant defending to the outside. Oh, because Florissant now has DRS. And helping out Florissant here is Beauvril, leaving him in DRS. Florissant was in DRS as well, so we're able to keep that gap to Marcos Olmedo behind. But with Seth and Beauvril losing time to the drivers behind, they've got to pit. Seth can probably go a few more laps on his softs, but Beauvril is going to have to get off his set soon. 15-lap-old softs again, 12 laps for Seth. Marcos Olmedo with the fresher. Animator behind them with much fresher hard compound tires. So it'll be interesting to see. Legion has nice fresh hards. He can probably take his to the end. Harrison setting fastest laps out front on the hard compound tires. 20 seconds well and away, as we need to keep an eye on these drivers here with this gap. So close as they make their way through 130R for lap 33, finishing lap 32 for them. We've seen when there's three of them that whoever's furthest behind can get by both. As to the outside, Florissant with the DRS able to make it past Beauvril. Now he's going to hope that Beauvril holds up Marcos Olmedo a little bit. And Olmedo perfectly by really easily there. We have a flag in sector 1, but it's a full course caution. That's Florissant stalled and is now going. Oh, I think that's a glitch of some sort? Not sure. I don't know what happened. I'm not seeing anything flash. Green lights again, so we're back to racing. With the podium position, Florissant, Beauvril, Animator, and Marcos Olmedo for the final pole position. Because was that... Beauvril did not pit. Maybe that VSC didn't come out at the most opportune time. They would have liked to capitalize on that. But Olmedo is now up to third, Florissant fourth, Beauvril fifth, Animator 6 seconds behind. Fighting with Ghost. That's a very close gap as well. That is Beauvril into the pits. Gonna allow Florissant to fight equally to the inside, unable to make that happen. Ghost into the pits as well. Highlinks is retired. Legion gets past Ghost at the pit exit, but is behind Beauvril now on mediums. We'll see how fast that gap closes to Marcos Olmedo and Florissant behind for Seth Martin. Legion put on a hard set. He'll be going towards the end. Beauvril put on a mediums. He should take those to the end. Ghost will take his hards to the end. I think that's going to do it for the pit stop. Besides Seth, who's going to have to get off those softs at some point. And will probably come out behind Beauvril or even Legion. But we'll have a fresh set of mediums as it is Florissant taking to the inside of the chicane. Not going to have the inside line coming out, but is going to have the inside line through the final turn. Plenty of room left by Marcos Olmedo. Florison into the pits. And a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Unfortunate. Seth into the pits as well. That brings Marcos Olmedo up to second now. Animator up to third. Young Lights will move up to fourth. Trying to see where Seth comes out and Florissant as far as Bobro is concerned. Florissant not going to have the hard tires or warmed up. Bobro's going to have a fresher set of mediums or a warm set of mediums, but Florissant should have a lap or two better tires. It's Young Lights up to fourth now on the hards. Seth went on to softs again. So very, very interesting choices here. Is Legion in the Aston on the hards. Let's take a look again. I'm not sure where everybody's at now, because with two stops, the Florissant and Bogle fresh mediums, Seth on fresh softs, Young Lights on very old hards, so is Marcos Olmedo. Animator has fresher hards, might be able to take him to the end. Ghost on nice fresh hards to put the pressure on Legion here in a little bit. Let's see if Legion can stick with Bogle and Florissant on that fresh rubber. As I'm pretty sure Poison Harbor will have to pit again. Johnny probably might have to pit again. As Bobro and Florissant gonna have similar strategies towards the end. Seth on softs is gonna have to get up the road. Has a chance at Young Lights, especially with the older tires. And I believe top three right now are on one-stop strategy, so it's going to be seeing how that gap closes. Haas sandwiched between two Aston Martins at the moment, but is on fresh mediums at probably last. Same with Florissant, but Legion behind on hards. We'll see if he can take those to the end, or how much purchase he'll lose. Because Ghost has nice fresh tires now, and might be putting the pressure on Legion here in a few laps as well. We see that penalties have been handed out, of course, but we're not worried about those. It's where you finish on track that matters most. Yes, we will take the results as far as the penalties after they've been decided after the race. Of course, those will be the final results, but where you finish on track probably means more to these drivers than anything. As lap 37.53 here, Elite Aspect F125. Round 3 here at the Suzuka circuit in Japan. Very interesting race so far. As we see a ghosted Red Bull of Johnny Carr being lapped. With Bobro and Florissant closest together on track at the moment. Very similar tire compounds. Florissant just set fastest lap of the race. Bobro's going to have the DRS. This isn't enough to make a move into turn one, I don't think, on this lap. But he's going to stay in that gap and capitalize on any pressure situation he may be able to. Harrison, 35 seconds up the road, begins lap 38 at 53 here. Definitely give him some screen time and a shout out. Has controlled this race from the start, has had the clean air, able to put in a gap, no mistakes, has a free pit stop behind as long as there's no errors or anything strange happening there. So has controlled this race, in control of his own destiny throughout the end. So it looks like Seth is closing that gap up to Young Lights rather quickly. Does have that set of softs. And may be able to take them to the end. If he can get back in touch with his teammate by the end of the race, that would be fantastic for both of the Ferraris. As we do have one of the V-carbs out, as Seth Martin is set fastest of the race with a 129. Overall gets past Florissant into turn 1. Sorry I missed that. I was trying to keep an eye on Seth as he was closing that gap down. So DRS proving sufficient for Beauville to get past Florissant. And we'll keep an eye on this battle as it progresses. I expect to see it continue through these final 15 laps of the Japanese Grand Prix for Elite Aspect F125. As we're on board with Seth Martin in the Ferrari, soft compound tires. They're not going to be happy at the end, especially with the pushing that he's had to do to close these gaps to these drivers through the hairpin. Trailing Young Lights. Completely different strategies between these two teams and drivers. There's some beautiful cherry blossoms in the background there. Those pink trees, absolutely stunning. Ken shows those off very, very well. With the slipstream, going to be able to take the inside line in a 130R. Is the car fully ahead? Yes, it is. So now we will watch that battle back as Young Lights is going to have DRS going into turn 1. It isn't going to give up so easily, but the purchase from that Ferrari. Into the pits comes Young Lights. That's going to bring Beauville and Florissant by. And Florissant knows he's not going to be able to make a move in on this lap, so get out of the slipstream, get out of the heat. Legion now 2 stops on very fresh old hards, I'm sorry, as Ghost has made the 2 stops. It'll be interesting to see how far these drivers go on these old hard tires. 13 laps for Legion, 13 for Animator. May be able to take them to the end. We have 14 laps left, so that's 27 laps. Marcos and Harrison, that's going to be tough. Harrison maybe, Marcos, they're going to be dying by the end. Can Seth keep closing that gap to his teammate in front? And to me, it looks like Beauville and Florissant are the best equipped to finish out this race on those 5-lap old medium tires. Young Lights on fresh mediums as well, in 10th and the last of the points, but I expect to see him be able to move up a few spots towards the end of this race on that fresh rubber. With 13 laps to go here, anything can happen. As when we look up to Florissant, who does have that closest gap to Beauville, as he's making his way in the slipstream into the final chicane. We really want it to be about 4 tenths out of the final turn here. So 6 tenths, 6.5 tenths. Probably going to be a little too far back. But you see that gap come down to 5, 5.5. Dip a wheel on the grass there. But try to conserve your tires to the end. Young Lights already all over the back of the V-Carb of Hugo Rodriguez. With that speed of DRS, gave up the inside line, Hugo did. And is not going to be able to fight that hard. Again, 6-lap old hards for Ghost. Young Lights on 1-lap old mediums. 4.5 seconds to close that gap. Florissant and Beauville still fighting it out. Again, both these guys on very, very similar lap tires. They'll have about 15, 17, 18 lap olds at the end of this race. Hugo Rodriguez, did he get back by Young Lights? Young Lights went into the dirt, it looks like. So off the track. Now back on, it looks to be going. I don't see any damage. As we are keeping an eye on that gap of Seth and Animator, the 2 Ferraris in 3rd and 4th. Different strategies as well. Animator on the 1 stop, on a set of hards that he can probably take to the end. Harrison and Marcos Olmedo, theirs will be a little tired at the end. But Seth on those medium soft compound tires, which he may be able to take to the end. But is that gap changing as Florissant, again, overtaking Beauville into turn 1? I expect to see that happen again over the next few laps until one of these drivers is able to break the slipstream in the DRS tow. They make their way over the hill through Dunlop, down into Degnas. Degna 1, then Degna 2. And to the hairpin. Find the traction on exit. Full power till we get to the spoon 1 and 2 curves. Find both apexes. Get the power down. Much better through spoon there than I believe Coruscant was. We'll see if that gap goes up to 130R here on the back stretch. It might be a little ways away to make anything happen into turn 1 here. We'll keep an eye on this gap. It's 7/10 going into the final chicane. A little bit of a lockup from Coruscant. Open the DRS with 8.5 tenths back. Coruscant set the fastest lap. But Bovril's still closing in. We'll see how that looks on the next lap. Coruscant closing in on Seth, who is on those soft compound tires. May try to take it to the end. I don't see that gap closing to his teammate in front of Animator. We'll take a second as Harrison Holmes into that green kick Sauber makes his way across the start finish line of lap 42, starting lap 43 here. Elite Aspect F125, round 3 here, Suzuka circuit in Japan. That's a tongue twister. But Harrison Holmes started on pole, commanded this race, able to get a very large gap, and has just putting in lap after lap after lap after lap. What a commanding performance. So definitely want to give him some screen time and a shout out. He started on pole and stayed there and was able to make a gap and extend his lead. And his commentator cursed and just got him a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Overall, very tight as we're finishing up lap 43 here. As they're finishing up lap 42, about to start lap 43. Opens the DRS, 3.5 tenths. Look at that speed. Nothing Florissant will be able to do about that one. But maybe they're working together and slingshotting each other around to try to close that gap to Seth. And then fight their battle once they can make it by the Ferrari, whose soft tires have got to start falling off at some point. Young Lights backed by Hugo Rodriguez on the straight again. We expected to see that. 8-lap-old softs, another 10 laps to go. These mediums are going to hold on a little bit better. That gap to Animator and Marcos Olmedo as well with 10 laps to go with 4 seconds. That might be interesting to watch. We'll see if Young Lights can make those medium tires, make up 5 seconds, even 10 seconds to Legion. I think he would like to do in the long run, but reasonably, at least another spot or 2 would be beneficial. So at the moment, 4th place, Florissant, Bovril, and Seth Martin, Aston Martin, Haas, and Ferrari respectively, are closing that gap to Animator as well. It's dropped down to 2.5 seconds almost. So are these drivers going to work together, get the DRS, try to close that gap to the Ferrari? Bovril and Florissant, similar strategy. Two stops for sure, but one went softs, hards, one went medium, hards, mediums. But Bovril were able to get a lot of life out of those soft tires, was able to take them deep. Because I was thinking 10, 11 laps, 12, 13 if you're lucky, and can push them. But he was taking them 15, 16, maybe even 17 laps there. And as the battle for 4th is what's heating up here towards the end of this race. Legion in 7th, Ghost bringing up 8th, Young Lights moved up to 9th, has got that 1 second gap to Hugo Rodriguez in 10th. Poison Harbor, a little bit too far back to maybe get a points place. As we're just watching the final laps, 8 laps here at the Suzuka circuit in Japan for Elite Aspect F125, round 3. As we're just watching the final laps unfold here, 8 laps to go. Again, Harrison, TF10, Harrison Holmes in the kick sour, leading the way in the Ferrari. I mean, leading his way in the kick sour. I was thinking about Animator as that gap was closing as Florissant gets past the Ferrari of Seth Martin. Watching Florissant behind to see if anything else happens. So up 1 spot for Beauvril, putting a Ferrari between him and Florissant. He's gonna want that. He's gonna want Seth Martin to defend like a lion, as Fernando Alonso would say. To increase that gap to Florissant at the end, to maybe hold on to 4th by the end of this race. But then again, can close that gap on the fresher tires to Joe Animator for that final podium position. Animator was getting close to Marcos Olmedo there for a little bit, but has since dropped back to 3.5 seconds. So we're watching this battle unfold here. Beauvril able to get by. That puts Florissant on the back foot a little bit, as the Ferrari's tires have got to be degrading. I mean, obviously is the best word for it because tires degrade, but I think this has really hurt Florissant's chances at catching Animator with Beauvril. As he's going to need to get by. Is Seth Martin going to have the DRS? It doesn't look like it, so Florissant will be able to make this pass down into turn 1 on lap 46 of 53. It is now lost about 1.5 seconds to Beauvril in front. Is going to have to close that back up, but Beauvril is now only 0.5 second behind Animator. Florissant closing that gap as well. So we're going to have a fight on our hands. Even Seth on those soft bottom mount tires, if all 4 of these drivers start battling, anything can happen because they're all within 1 second of each other. So fantastic for a podium finish here. As we do believe Harrison and Marcos Olmedo are pretty safe out front. If we start seeing this gap close to that V-carb in 2nd spot, less than 1.3 seconds here, that'll be interesting as we'll have a fight on our hands for 2nd place as well. While Marcos Olmedo is still nursing those hard compound tires. 6 laps to go here in the round 3 of the Japan Grand Prix here for Elite Aspect F125. No assists, 100% race, no racing line, no ABS, no traction control, nothing like that. 100% race. Keep your concentration for about 1 hour and 20 minutes these races take. If not 1.5 hours, depending on conditions. Beauvril all in the slipstream. Decides to stay out of it. Doesn't make a move into 130R. But does make a move down the inside in the final triangle chicane here. Not able to make it stick. All 4 drivers line astern. 3.5 tenths. Florissant looks like his back wheel kicked out and is going to lose out to Seth Martin now. But with the DRS, he's going to have to make that pass again. Oh, so close. Inside. Wheel banging. Side by side. No major contact. Animator drops down to 4th. Beauvril does move up to 3rd into that Haas. Ferrari now 4th and 5th. Florissant looking for that final double points finish in 5th place. Has definitely dropped back and has a gap to Beauvril, who they were just battling 2 or 3 laps ago. The 2 Ferraris have put a wrinkle in Florissant's plans to maybe get on the podium, as Animator's trying to hold on to 4th. Beauvril, excellent driving up into that 3rd spot. Florissant's going to need to repass Seth Martin here and hopeful that Animator's tires are falling off so he can catch back up to the back of Beauvril. Hugo Rodriguez is able to stick with Young Lights as well. I wonder if Young Lights made a mistake because that gap is closing. I know he wants to get in the 8th spot. Because I think Florissant has the closest gap ahead. Is he going to have the nice rear wheel purchase here to make a move into turn one. Might be a little too far back, but those soft compound rear tires of Seth Martin are just not able to get an exit. I think he has enough speed. Seth Martin defending the inside line might be wise, but no. Florissant able to get the whole car ahead and get to the apex of turn one. Now has to put the pedal down and try to catch up with Animator, who's dropped behind 1 second. So 2.5 seconds. Florissant's going to have to make up on 5 laps to get to the back of Bobro again in his hopes to finish on the podium. Excellent driving from the Haas of Bobro to get up into third place and get on that podium step. Young Lights is still putting it on Ghost. Hugo Rodriguez in the final points is sticking with him. Florissant still defending from Seth Martin as well. As they're making their way through the spoon curves here, lap 49 of 53. 4 laps to go to complete, with 3, 4, 5, and 6 all separated by less than 5 seconds. Overall, 2 seconds to Marcos Olmedo ahead. Seth Martin closing. Able to get that wheel on the inside? No, he was not. Second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. What a battle we have going on here. 4 laps to go. 3.5 laps to go. Overall, 2 seconds behind Marcos Olmedo in second. Hanging on to the final podium spot. Anything can happen here. Animator's tires are going to be falling off. Florissant has fresher mediums. Seth Martin is going to have waning soft tires. Overall, nice mediums as well. Something happened to Legion as he made his way through the Degnas. He is dropped to 10th. That's Young Lights. It's put Ghost up to 7th, Young Lights up to 8th, Hugo up to 9th, and Legion now in 10th. As we see Florissant holding off Seth Martin into the final chicane. Not going to have DRS ahead, so that's going to allow Seth Martin to maybe make a pass here. Getting lap 50 of 53. Harrison Holmes far and away. 50 seconds gap. Bovro has brought it down to 1 second to Marcos Olmedo in head. Animator 1.5 seconds behind. Seth 1.5 seconds behind his teammate. Now Florissant 0.5 second behind Seth. Where Young Lights into turns 1 and 2 has dropped that gap to 0.5 second. Is all going to be all over the gearbox of Ghost, hoping to make his way up to 7th as Legion comes out of the pit. Should have a free pit stop. Should be safe in 10th. Changing a wing, so definitely had an issue there. Unfortunate for the Aston Martin driver, who looked like 7th or 8th, was definitely on the cards for him today, but had an incident and has to replace his wing. Is going to stay in 10th, can maybe put in a fast lap or something. A little bit of pride to finish. Closing is that gap. Less than a second, Bogo to Marcos Olmedo. He's going to need to put the pressure on here. Much fresher mediums compared to the old hard tires that Marcos Olmedo has, but also these mediums probably about their halfway life, so we don't know if their performance will be that much greater than an older set of hards at this time. Is the speed for speed going to work with the DRS? Bovro is going to move up to second place. Marcos Olmedo drops to third, 3 seconds up the road from Animator, as Florissant is battling both of the Ferraris now, all within 1 second of each other. Lap 51 of 53. This will be the battle to watch. I don't think Marcos Almeida is going to be able to come back in Bovril here. Maybe under DRS, but that pass won't happen until the end of the lap. But you won't be able to make it on the last lap. As 410 separate Marcos Almeida and Bovril into the hairpin. 410 separate Florissant and Seth Martin now into the hairpin. Young Likes has gotten past Ghost. Hugo Rodriguez might fancy an opportunity at Ghost as well. Off the road, Marcos Almeida into 130R. Hugo Rodriguez did get by Ghost, as it was Ghost off the track. Florissant by Seth into the chicane. Very brave to overtake there, because it's going to give DRS behind. But Florissant did have DRS. It was in 1 second of Animator as well. So able to hold off Seth into turn 1 with that DRS. Marcos Almeida in the V-Carb still fighting Bovril, who has overtaken second. But Joe Animator is going to have to fend off, I think, 2 Ferraris here if he wants to hold on to 4th. Young Light's up to 7th. I don't think he's going to have enough time to close that gap to Seth. No, that's 20 seconds back. Hugo did get past Ghost, as Ghost made a mistake. 23 seconds from Legion. I don't think he's going to be able to move up any more spaces, so unfortunate to see that, as he was in the top 8 and had an incident and ended up just in 10th. And bringing home a point as a reserve is always very, very important, as it is Ferrari, Aston Martin, Ferrari. Legion, fastest lap of the race on the soft compound tires in 10th. The 128.474. It is the final lap. Harrison making his way through Dunlop at the moment. Not half a lap ahead. Through the Degnas. He is, so we'll get on board with him in just a minute. But we may see an overtake of Florissant and Animator here. They've got one more lap after this. Into turn 1, and then we'll watch Harrison Holm bring it home. Whoa, look at that speed with the DRS. Just too fast. Up to 4th goes Florissant. And maybe hold off the Ferraris. It's lovely to see both Kick Saubers here. Ghost in 9th. Harrison in 1st. Going to bring it home. Finishes the Grand Prix. Congratulations, Harrison Holmes. 51 seconds ahead of your rival Bovril, who is in 2nd. Marcos Almeida still fighting him. Less than a 10th between them. Animator fighting back at Florissant. I don't think he's going to have the tires, especially through Spoon. Is going to have to rely on the slipstream up into, as Ghost and Legion are battling. No, they've already finished because they were a lap back. So it's just showing us that they finished. Bovril doesn't have any penalties. Marcus and Florissant both do. Animator and Seth do not. So it'll be interesting to see where these guys finish once the penalties are handed out. Again, we will go by that. But Bovril holding off Marcos Almeida, it looks like, is Animator able to make anything happen into the final chicane. As we finish up the last lap, this is the battle to watch as they make their way through the final turn. Animator with a penalty at the death. Unfortunate as you see them rounding the final turn. On track, it was Florissant that finished, but had more penalties than Animator. Seth Martin moves up to 4th after the penalties are handed out. For Ferrari, 4th and 5th, Florissant drops to 6th. And perfect way to end it with Young Lights in the Alpine in 7th. And he will be our final driver to cross that we'll keep an eye on as Hugo comes in behind him. So it's going to drop Young Lights a place, but we'll keep an eye on Young Lights here, as he is the kind of leader, head honcho for us here at Elite Aspect F1 25. So we do appreciate him getting us all together and making the events happen and being the host for all of us, keeping track of everybody and getting us all situated and ready. And as you see, top spot there, Harrison Holmes with Bovril finishing second, Marcus Olmedo finishing third in the V car. Made up some points on his rival, ONV Alberto. As Harrison Holmes is going to be happy to close that gap at the rivals standings as well. Both Ferraris 4th and 5th, so decent constructors points. But V-Carb on the podium, that gap is going to close just a little bit, I believe. And as you see the drivers celebrating on the rostrum. And hopefully we'll see our final results here. Last time it did not show us. No, we do not see the final results at the end of the race. That is sad. It just flashed it. I didn't even see it. So definitely a bug where it's not showing the results at the end of the race. It flashed up and then went away, and I wasn't able to see it all. Maybe it's because I'm spectating and it doesn't want us to show all that. I'm not quite sure. But that's going to do it for Elite Aspect F125 here in Japan. That's going to finish up round 3 here for us. We look forward to seeing you in Bahrain next week. It is a regular race weekend. So it'll be pre-practice 1 and 2 on Thursday, pre-practice 3 on Friday, followed by a qualifying session, full qualifying, all 20 drivers, 5 eliminated out of Q1, 5 eliminated out of Q2, top 10 shootout for Q3 to make the way for Bahrain, which we did testing at as well. So drivers should be pretty well equipped to handle Bahrain. But yeah, thank you very much. I'm Fabregas115, leaving you all here from Elite Aspect F125, round 3 here at the Suzuka circuit in Japan. Fantastic race we had today. Congratulations to Harrison Holmes for taking top spot honors. Bovril and Marcus Olmedo rounding out the rostrum with the 2 Ferraris, 4th and 5th, rounding out the top 5. So congratulations to all the drivers. Fantastic race. Appreciate everybody joining us, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one next week.